Good morning, everyone. So we chose an absolutely beautiful day to have you all out and about, and a wonderful breakfast, I think, right? I think there's... So my name is Paula Shiner, and I am the CEO of Coastline Elderly Services in New Bedford, and it is my pleasure to welcome you here this morning to a Bristol County celebration of seniors. Today would not be possible without the generous support of our sponsors, so I'm going to just quickly tell you who they are. Our platinum sponsor, Senior Whole Health, and you'll be hearing from them in a minute or so. Our gold sponsors, Bristol Elder Services, Health Net Plan, and United Healthcare. And our silver sponsors, AARP, Massachusetts, First Citizens Bank, Jane Sullivan, St. Anne's Hospital, and Brandon Woods. So without further ado, let me introduce to you our host for this morning. Thomas Quinn III is the District Attorney of Bristol County. In this position, oh, accolades already, Tom. In this position, he has the responsibility of investigating and prosecuting all criminal matters that occur in the county's 20 cities and towns. He was appointed to the position by Governor Charlie Baker in 2015, and his appointment, based on your accolades, I know this to be true, received widespread support from the community, who cited his 25-plus years of experience in the justice system and his commitment to the community as a lifelong resident of Bristol County. So without further ado, please welcome District Attorney, our District Attorney, Tom Quinn.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, Paula. I want to welcome everybody to Whites of Westport for our 5th annual celebration of seniors. I want to thank you, Paula and Ann McGrillis from Coastline Elderly, for their support, along with Eric Poulin, in putting this event together. 600 people registered for this conference, and I think it's very important because I believe that all citizens of Bristol County, especially our seniors, need to feel safe and secure in their communities. Nationally, 5 million elderly people are victims of elder abuse, 1/3 financial. I'd be shocked if it's not a lot more than that. Through prosecution and prevention, we hope to reduce this. This conference is really about prevention and knowing about the resources available so we can avoid having people become victims of fraud and abuse. I couldn't be happier today to have seniors, caretakers, and service providers in attendance to spread the message about preventing abuse. It's reprehensible, and I'll say that again, reprehensible that elders are financially abused by, sadly, family members, caretakers, and scam artists. We will continue to work together to protect our senior citizens. Over 4 years ago, when I became the district attorney, I realized how critical this issue was and put together a financial crimes unit, in large part focused on prosecuting crimes, investigating and prosecuting crimes against the elderly, and engaging in prevention. That was just talk back then. Sounded nice, but it's not talk anymore. I've created that unit, and I think it's made a big dent into holding people accountable, many of whom who have skated for years for abusing and stealing from the elderly, and I will continue to do that to work to protect you from harm. You'll hear today from expert speakers, and I want to thank all of them for speaking and presenting. I believe the Secretary of Elder Affairs, Elizabeth Chen, is here, will be here today. I also want to thank Jane Sullivan, Attorney Jane Sullivan, for her upcoming presentation and being a silver sponsor, along with AARP, Mike Festa, for presenting, being a silver sponsor and supporting our initiatives. I hope people will Well, more important, also I want to thank Laura Langevin and Kevin Smith for agreeing to give a presentation here today. Please pay attention because this is critical to prevent people from taking advantage of you. Many of our elderly have good manners and are pleasant. I'll give you one tip. Don't answer the phone unless you know who's calling. Think there's anybody on the other line who's got your well intentions at hand? No. So that's a simple advice, because that would avoid a lot of trouble. I'm getting calls left and right from Wyoming and numbers you couldn't make up. I don't think there's anything good in it for me either. I really have to take note of our financial sponsors and thank them. Platinum sponsor, Senior Whole Health, who you'll hear for a moment from David Webster, who's here, and I appreciate their attendance and support, along with our gold sponsors, Bristol Elder Services, Boston Medical Center, HealthNet Plan, United Healthcare, silver sponsors that I mentioned earlier, AARP, Attorney Jane Sullivan, as well as Brandon Woods of Dartmouth and New Bedford, First Citizens Federal Credit Union, and St. Anne's Hospital. Without them, this would not be possible. I also would like to acknowledge the presence I saw earlier of Representative Paul Schmidt, who represents Westport. Appreciate his support in this area. Thank you for welcoming us here, Paul. I'm happy that this event has grown over the last 5 years. I think it was a little over 100 5 years ago. As I said, 600 people have registered. We've got over 90 agencies here on the other side of the wall, which I think is great, provide information to you in a different number of areas. I'll prosecute people. For example, grandmother was being ripped off by her grandson. They said he was on probation, he's going to jail. She kept following him money up to the tune of $20,000. We find out he's down in North Carolina. I say, go get him. We got him, brought him back. Unfortunately, he had to go. The grandmother had to come to court. She didn't like it, but she knew what had to be done. He was held accountable for abusing her. She should be enduring her life, despite her love for her grandson, being manipulated and taken advantage of, and in fact, ruining many people's lives. That's what's happening. When the money is stolen, it's not going to come back in most cases. So that's why the prevention is critical. We can prosecute, maybe in some cases get the money. It's important, but the preference is not to get involved in the first place, so I think these resources are here. I've gone to every senior center in the county at least once, and other senior centers and senior-based facilities to spread the message, and I will continue to do that. I think of what my parents, grandmother, aunt, uncle did for us, did for me, and what I'm sure many of you people have done for your families. You've made this community what it is. So we do everything we can to protect our seniors, and I will continue to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, D.A. Quinn, for the work that you do and your team protecting our communities. I have, unfortunately, to let you know that Dr. Elizabeth Chen, our new Secretary of Elder Affairs, is under the weather today. So she sends her regrets. This is her second week on the job, and she really wanted to be down here on the South Coast with us. So kind of pinch hitting for her at the very last minute is Kathy Devine. And Kathy, okay. Kathy has been with the Executive Office of Elder Affairs for 14 years. She's the director of the Prescription Advantage program. She also provides outreach and education statewide about the program, all the programs that are administered by Elder Affairs. Kathy has spent years in the health insurance industry as a manager for claims operations at both Blue Cross and Harvard Pilgrim. So thank you, Kathy, for being up here with us this morning.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for that nice introduction. And I do have to say, I am so sorry that our new secretary isn't here to meet with you today. You would love her. she's only been with us for 2 weeks, and she has hit the floor running. She is already so dedicated, devoted to the issues that we all face as seniors, and we're just going to really enjoy working with her. So I'm very happy to be here to be able to speak a little bit for her, because as the district attorney said, you know, elder abuse is a huge problem, and it's something that, you know, we take very seriously at the Executive Office of Elder Affairs. In fact, we administer the Protective Service Program, which helps to look into these cases that are reported. We have a hotline that's available 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. It's a toll-free number. And I'm going to give you that number, but also out on my table, I do have these pamphlets, and I hope you'll stop by to pick one up. But the number to call we have is 1-800-922-2275. So if you hear or see of any type of abuse, and abuse isn't always, I think sometimes we think of it as physical abuse, and that's not always the case, because it can be physical abuse, it can be sexual, it can be financial, it can be neglect, and it's also self-neglect. So these are things, keep your eyes open, call our hotline, and it will be investigated by Protective Services. And as I said, they are available, they are there 24/7. So I also, with me today is the director of the Protective Service Program. He's over at the table. If there's any questions that you might have for him, you know, please feel free and stop by. But, you know, we did say this is a big problem, and in terms of calls that came into our hotline just during fiscal year 18, we had over 34,000 calls. I know, that's a scary number, isn't it? Yeah, and just in Bristol County alone, there were almost 4,000, which, you know, that's 11% of that total. So it's a big number, and we want to see that number go down. And having an Elder Abuse Awareness Day, I think really does help to make people more aware of it. And it really isn't just one day. It's really the month. And yesterday in Brockton, there was an annual walk that I believe was sponsored by the Council on Aging. Now you remember, you know what the weather was like yesterday. They still had 125 people go walk, you know, and still have their signs, and just to make sure that they were raising awareness. And wouldn't that catch anybody's eye, driving by to see 100 people walking in the pouring rain? So I think that they got some awareness yesterday. I know next week, on the 20th, Plymouth is having a walk, which I was very happy to participate in last year. And again, they had, you know, a huge number of seniors, caregivers, other representatives walk a mile along Plymouth Harbor, and it was a much nicer day. So I hope they have a good day this year too. So on behalf of the Secretary and Elder Affairs, I want to thank all of you for being here today. This is a great event. I had a table here last year, and I hope to be here again next year. So thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, Kathy. We will let the secretary know that you did a wonderful job representing her this morning. I will let her know. I absolutely will. Next, I would like to introduce to you David Webster. David is the plan president of Senior Whole Health. He is an executive with more than 30 years of experience in contracting, development, and financial management in healthcare. Prior to Senior Whole Health, David held various titles at Tufts Health Plan, including Vice President of Network Development. David actually knows Bristol County very well, not only from his professional career, but also as a college student, because he is an alumni of SMU. How many of you remember SMU? I don't want to say that it's really aging you, David, but anyway, please welcome David to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. It's a pleasure to be here this morning with District Attorney Quinn and the other distinguished members of the panel. I was actually going to say that in my remarks. Coming back to Westport is a bit of a homecoming for me. Going to school at SMU, and yes, I refuse to call it UMass Dartmouth, by the way. Go Crusaders. Coming back here is really something special for me. In fact, I used to pump gas at a gas station right up the road from White. So if I spill gas on your car back in the day, I'm sorry. I apologize. Learning experience. So more importantly, very proud to be the platinum sponsor once again of this event. It's truly a very exciting event for us to be a part of. This is my first time at this event, recently joining the plan in December. And I'm following in the footsteps of Keith Pfeiffer, who folks that may know Keith, he was a very large presence, very loud shoes and big shoes to fill, so I hope I do my best on that. So at Senior Whole Health, we actually have been one of the founding SCO plans, Senior Care Option Plans. Been in business since 2004, the inception of the Senior Care Option Plans. And really this plan is, I'm excited to be here. This plan offers a lot of supplemental benefits to those folks that are both eligible for Medicare and Medicaid eligibility. I encourage you to visit our vendor table outside. There's a lot of supplemental benefits that you may not be aware that are available to you. So please, when you get a moment, stop by the table out in the vendor reception area. So we, in our 14, 15 years of history here, we've grown to over 15,000 members. That's pretty exciting. When you think about where we are, we're number 2 in the market right now. It's been very slow growth for us over a period of time. But it's important because what really makes it different, but separates us from our competition, is our care model. Okay, our care managers are actually from all the local communities, and as you know as well as I do, if you're in a local community such as Fall River, that's much different than New Bedford. We actually hire folks from the local communities because they understand the culture and the unique needs of that community. So we're very proud of that fact. In fact, of our 15,000 members, over 30% of them are here in Bristol County. So thank you for your support if you're a Senior Whole Health member. If you're not, please visit our table out there. We'd love to welcome you to our plan. More importantly, our care managers speak over 40 different languages. That's important because if you think about it and you're a person whose first language is not English, there's a lot that can get lost in translation. We hire folks from the community because they understand what the cultural differences are serving that community. Myself, as you probably can tell from my dialect, I'm born and bred in central Massachusetts, right? So I understand that Worcester is pronounced Worcester, not Worcester, and that Leominster is also pronounced Leominster, not Leominster. And I can pick up right away, and I have some colleagues that come from out of state and they say, oh, where's Worcester? I'm like, no, it's Worcester. And it's wicked right there up the road. So we need to pay attention to that. As I've been traveling around the Commonwealth, there's one thing that I'm very proud of to be a part of this organization. The respect that we get working with folks such as Coastline and Bristol Elder Affairs. What they say is your organization is actually a partner with that, and we really appreciate your partnership. Events like this is just a form of what that partnership looks like. Honestly, we couldn't do it without the support of our ASAP partners. Really, in healthcare, the way we control costs and keep our members healthy and safe in their homes, and that's what our mission is to actually work very closely with our partner agencies. It truly does make a difference. Our care model, as I said before, we hire from the local communities. These folks actually will visit you. They will be an advocate for you and actually guide you through the very complex care system, again, working with our community partners. The reason why we do that, it's not the cheapest solution in the world, to be honest with you, but it's important. It's that collaboration that actually makes a difference. And when I look around the room, that's what matters, because it's actually keeping all of you secure, healthy, independent in your own homes. So I'm standing between myself and the rest of the speakers. I don't want to take up much more of the time, but I just want to say thank you for your attendance today. We really appreciate supporting this event.
Thank you, David, for your ongoing support and sponsorship. We're happy to have him here with us today. And he is fairly new in his role, so. Next on our agenda, we have a legislative update. I think this is really important information, and to share that with you, we have Mike Festa. Mike is the state director for AARP, so Massachusetts. Formerly, he was the Secretary of Elder Affairs, also a 5-term state representative, and he is an attorney at law. So please join me in welcoming Mike Festa to the podium.
Thank you, Paula. Very sweet. Thank you. How you doing so far? Good. Tom, where did he go? I'm about to say nice things about you and you're leaving. No, it's all right. You know, I have to say, it really is awesome to have this gathering. Tom puts it together, like he says, his 5th year. I bet some of you have been here for all 5 years. This gets done because a lot of hardworking people put it together. So I want to give a shout out to both Tom in terms of recognizing the critical importance of focusing on fraud prevention. And I also want to thank Eric. You know, he's wearing the flag tie. It's Flag Day, right? He got the memo. I'm wearing red, white, and blue socks, no flag. Sorry about that. Look, I'm here to talk seriously about 3 things. The first thing I want to mention to you is that at AARP, we have been trying and focusing on supporting caregivers for a long time. I'm sure many of you in this room are either providing care to a loved one, or you yourself are receiving care, or you're certainly in the world where you know a lot of folks who are in that place. One of the legislative priorities of AARP in Massachusetts has been to fight for a tax credit for caregivers who are putting money out on their own, out of love, but they're spending a lot of money. The average caregiver is spending $7,000 over the course of a caregiving experience out of pocket. And we think it's appropriate for the government to recognize that in the absence of support financially, how many of those folks are going to wind up having to get that care given by the government? So the fact that families are out there doing this, we want to support that. So our first priority is to support a caregiver tax credit. Representative Schmidt's here. It's always good to see Paul. You've got the Senate Chair of Ways and Means in the neighborhood, so obviously he has something to do with that, so mention to him how important, if you agree with us, that caregiver tax credit is a good idea. Number 2, we are very concerned, and I'm sure a lot of you share this as well, about the fact that too many people are not ready for retirement financially. A lot of reasons for that I won't go into, but the bottom line is pretty straightforward. We need to have better ways for people to save while they're working. Do you know in Massachusetts there are over 1 million people working that have no access to a 401k? And this is a problem in 2 respects. One is, as a practical matter, there's no real way to save except through an IRA, and some people choose not to do it that way. But to know that you can have an automatic deduction out of your paycheck, studies show 15 times more participation in a retirement savings plan if it's provided by the employer. Solution is a piece of legislation that's also in the Mass legislature now. It's a work and save plan that would require and allow the state, which already has a plan called the core plan, to expand it to make it available to the private employer without any cost to the employer, to have that administered through what they call the core plan. So anybody working that doesn't have access would be able to get that access through the core plan at the state level. So that's our second priority. The most important priority, I have to tell you, with those 2 things being very critical, is the cost of prescription drugs. Now I know I'm talking to an audience that understands it better than most. The simple truth is we pay the highest drug prices in the world by far. We do it because we have a system in place that the drug companies have negotiated and lobbied for years. The government can't even negotiate prices through Medicare. The costs of prescription drugs are out of control, and we know at AARP, we see it every day. You probably see it when you go to CVS or Walgreens. People are getting the price and they say, I can't afford this. And they leave the prescription on the counter. Or they cut the pill in half, or they don't do it at all. Now, it's not very helpful to have life-saving drugs if you can't afford them. So AARP is on a mission to make this a matter of highest priority for the government. We are running a campaign that is not mincing words. We call it Stop RX Greed. We took a full-page ad in the Boston Globe on Wednesday. You know why? Because we wanted people to know that we're fighting for them, and we also gave them a call to action. Call your state senator, call your state rep, let them know right now in the conference committee there's wording in the budget that says that the government in the state of Massachusetts can negotiate prices through Mass Health, Medicaid, to reduce those prices. Also give authority to the Attorney General and to the Pricing Commission to enforce transparency. We want to know why they're coming up with these prices. Insulin in Britain, $10. Insulin in Massachusetts, $500. What's wrong with this picture? They don't tell us. We want transparency, and we're fighting for it. You may have already signed the petition. I'm asking you respectfully. Sign our petition that's on our booth. Stop the greed. Let's send a message. And I say this with all respect because I know I'm in Mike's territory. Mike and I served in the House together. Mike Rodericks, I love him dearly. Mike is in a very important place right now. He is deciding this question along with the other conference members. If you know him or you care to, call his office and say you heard about this and you hope that he will support the Senate version of the budget language that says we can negotiate these prices. Okay, so that's my message. I want to end with the theme of this conference. The overarching regular work we do has a lot to do with fraud prevention. You know, one thing Tom sort of alluded to, and I want to emphasize it, I'm a former prosecutor myself. If you're already talking to the DA or the police, you've lost. With all due respect, they try as hard as they can to get the money back. It's gone. The key to all of this is prevention. The key to all of this is knowing the mind of those people that are so low that they would take your own money and they won't care if it's all you've got and they don't care if it leaves you destitute. You got to get into their minds. The best way to do that is to understand their scams. And to avoid being scammed, we have a program called Fraud Watch Network. So when you go by our booth, we have a little handout. It's called Fraud Watch Network. Join it. We regularly update new scams that are always coming. And, you know, it's all free, but it's really important because this is about prevention. And the truth is, $18 billion with a B is going out of your pockets into people. And yes, it's true, it's a lot with family, but it's also still in Nigeria, it's still in China, it's still in Eastern Europe, it's still wherever you might imagine. So, like Tom said, hang up. You don't know them, hang up. By the way, here's a little tip for you, and I'm going to end with my tip. Do you know scammers really want you to stay on the phone? Not necessarily to get your personal information. They just want to talk to you. You know why? The longer you stay on the phone, you are proving to the scammer that you're a live, real sucker. They will sell your phone number into the dark web, and they will use those numbers as a way of being able to have other scammers go after you. You know, it's all automatic, right? If you pick up the phone, you're real. If you talk long, you are really the kind of person they want to get after. So hang up. End of discussion. It's been a thrill to be here. Paula, I really appreciate your introduction and your asking us to be part of this program. And have a great rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. As you can see, Mike is a strong advocate for all of us. I'm a senior for all of you. We appreciate the work that you do, but you can't do it alone. And we know that. So check out the AARP booth, go to the website, pick up some information, and see what you can do to help those 3 issues that Mike described to us this morning. All right, so at this point in time, I'm going to introduce to you Jane Sullivan. Attorney Jane Sullivan established her own estate planning and elder law practice in Fall River in 1996. She has experience working with clients of all ages and in all aspects of estate planning and administration, with a special emphasis on elder law. Her experience and knowledge enable her to assist clients with advanced planning matters, addressing financial and legal worries, and representing the fiduciary of an estate after the death of a loved one. Please join me in welcoming Jane Sullivan.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another very successful event. After the speaking program concludes, if you haven't already, I do encourage you to visit all the exhibitors. Every year there are more and more of us, and there's a lot of wonderful information for you. At my table, which is number 9, I brought 2 handouts with me today, and these are also available on my website if you don't have a chance to grab them. One is a 1-page form that gives you all of the current long-term care Medicaid numbers here in Massachusetts, that being the program that pays for long-term custodial nursing home care. But more importantly is my estate planning dictionary. That's a really handy document for you to have. It just gives you a little brief summary of all the important estate planning documents that you should have in your estate plan. And I'm going to start with the most basic one. Show of hands. How many of you have a healthcare proxy? All right, I see most of the hands, but some of you here didn't raise your hand. That's one of the most important documents, and you don't need a lawyer to do that. You can get a fill-in-the-blank Massachusetts healthcare proxy form, and you can fill in the name, address, and telephone numbers of a primary healthcare agent and then an alternate healthcare agent, so that you've got the people that you choose in place to make medical decisions for you if there comes a time when you cannot make your own decisions. Until that healthcare proxy is invoked by your physician, you're still in charge. I often meet with kids especially that say, I'm my mom's healthcare proxy. Well, that's good. Is mom still competent and able to make her own decisions? Yes. Well, you're just waiting in the wings. That healthcare proxy has to be activated by your physician when he or she determines that you're incompetent or incapable of making your own decisions. So very important to have the document, but just as important is to tell those healthcare agents what you want. How do you feel about certain healthcare decisions, extraordinary life support measures? You can do a separate document called a living will declaration if you choose to. What I typically do is incorporate some living will provisions right in the healthcare proxy form. How do you feel about life support measures? But you can even just have a discussion with your healthcare agents. Their job is to carry out your wishes. How you make those wishes known to those individuals is entirely up to you. It does not have to be in writing. But at a minimum, you need to have a discussion with them because their job is to carry out your wishes. So the healthcare proxy is for medical decision-making authority. I've had a couple folks ask me today about HIPAA, HIPAA. That's the medical privacy rules that prohibit any of your medical providers, Medicare, Blue Cross, Mass Health, your pharmacy, anywhere that provides medical service to you. They're not supposed to release any of that information to your spouse, to your son, to your daughter, unless you authorize them to do so in writing. Now, a lot of doctors have their own internal form, you know, when you check in for your physical and they hand you that clipboard, and typically there's a spot that says, who can we talk to? and you fill in the name of your spouse or your child. But that form is unique to that medical office. That doesn't go with you wherever you go. So that's what a HIPAA authorization is all about. Who do you want to have access to your private medical information? And you can do that for as many people as you choose. If you've got 5 kids and you want them all to be able to call and get information, you can sign a HIPAA authorization for each of those children. And my recommendation is that the child holds on to that form. So if they need to present it to someone or fax it or email it, there are lots of different ways that we can communicate these days. If they've got the form, they're going to be able to get the medical information they might need to help you if you're in a medical crisis, for example. So those are the important medical-related documents that I encourage everybody to include in their estate plan. For legal and financial information, the most important document is a durable power of attorney. That authorizes somebody to do your banking, to pay your bills, to take care of your house, to do all the things that you do on a daily basis that you may not be able to do if your health declines, if your cognitive skills decline, even if you're just in the hospital for a short period. And maybe you go to a nursing home for rehab and then you return home. Somebody's got to take care of all those things for you, even during that temporary period. So that's what a durable power of attorney is all about. Who do you trust to take care of all those things for you? I know you've heard a lot about elder abuse and exploitation. That power of attorney is a really important job. So you need to think very carefully about who you're going to trust to do those things on your behalf. It could be one person, and you could name an alternate, just like in the healthcare proxy. Or maybe you want to name your son and daughter together to conduct those transactions for you. You can certainly do that. But if we name 2 people, we want to specify, are both of their signatures required for a transaction, or do you want to give them individual authority to do those things on your behalf? So as you can see, that power of attorney needs to be tailored to your particular situation. Unlike the healthcare proxy, where I'm relatively comfortable with you getting that fill in the blank form, but you have to sign it, date it, and 2 people have to witness it. And the witnesses can't be the healthcare agents. I met with a client recently. She named her daughters as her healthcare agents. Her daughters were the witnesses on the healthcare proxy. Not good. We had to redo that. So the point is, you need to think really carefully about who you want to name and whether you trust them to give them that authority. Sadly, if there's a medical crisis or something happens to you and you don't have those documents in place, we end up in the probate court. And although we have a very well-run probate court here in Bristol County, we're lucky in that respect because I hear horror stories about other counties, it's still a stressful and expensive process for your family. And although I do guardianships and conservatorships as part of my practice, I'm the first one to admit it's my least favorite thing to do because I'm working with a family who's in a crisis situation because those basic documents were not put in place in advance of when that crisis occurs. So I'm working with 2 families right now, really sad situations where one of the spouses has advanced dementia and they never came to a program like this. They didn't hear about these things. So we're going to be able to accomplish what we need through the probate court, but it's going to take us about 6 months to do something that we could otherwise do immediately if we had a power of attorney. So for example, if the husband in one instance needs nursing home care, we want to be able to put the deed to the house in the wife's name. If we had a well-drafted power of attorney, we'd be able to do that. We don't have it. So we've got to go to court to get wife and son appointed as his conservators and then ask for permission from the probate court to do that. I don't anticipate any problem with it other than, we're already a month into the process and it's going to take us at least another 5. And of course, filing fees, legal fees, trip to court. When we probate a will in Massachusetts, unless people are fighting over things, and we could spend the rest of the day talking about that, probating a will is typically all done by mail. But when we have to file for a guardianship or a conservatorship for someone, we have to show up. We have to go to court. So that just adds a layer of stress for a family that's already dealing with a difficult situation. And I tell my clients, this applies to people of all ages, not just elders. I always say when I do a talk like this, before I let my kids go to college, they both came to mom's office to sign a healthcare proxy and a power of attorney, because one of them was going 500 miles away, and mom back in Fall River is not going to have any authority if she was sick or if something happened to her. So this is something that applies to everybody, regardless of their age, regardless of the size of the estate. These are basic estate planning documents that everybody should have. So I'm wearing my estate planning, but also my elder law hat when I encourage you to do those things. And not only to do them and tuck them in the drawer or the safe deposit box and forget about them, especially if they're in the safe deposit box, who has access to that box? Is your spouse on the box? Is your son? Is your daughter? Somebody else needs to be able to get into that box to get the documents if they're needed. There is a statute in Massachusetts that allows me, as the attorney for the estate, to go into a box just to look for a will. So if I have a client that passes away and we can get our hands on the key to the box, the bank will let me into it just to remove the will. We don't get to touch anything else. But there's no law that says I can get in there to get my client's healthcare proxy or durable power of attorney. So you need to think carefully about where you're going to keep those original documents. When I've done work for a client, I always keep scanned copies, so oftentimes I'm with the client's permission or the healthcare agent, I'm sending them to the hospital or an assisted living or a nursing home. But for a power of attorney especially, we need that original document. The bank is going to want to see the original signed document, and they're going to go to the last page and feel for that notary seal or make sure that the ink on that last page is not a photocopy, it's an original. Or if we're using that power of attorney for a real estate transaction, we have to record the original power of attorney at the registry of deeds. So a copy is not going to do us any good. So once you've signed them, really important to let your family members or whoever you've named in those documents know where they are. You might even want to give them a copy. That's entirely up to you. When I'm working with the family, entirely up to the client. Do they want the kids to come in and meet with me and be able to ask questions? But really important, if it's a private matter for you, if you've named somebody, that they know that you've named them and they know where they're going to be able to find those original documents, so that if there is an emergency, they're going to be able to locate them and do what they can to help you. That's the whole objective, is to make sure that you and your assets are taken care of during your lifetime. I have so many people come to see me that say, I want to avoid probate when I die. I'm more concerned about avoiding probate during your lifetime, because the last thing your family needs to be dealing with in a crisis situation is a guardianship or a conservatorship. So those are my words of wisdom for today. Healthcare proxy, power of attorney, don't leave home without them. And if you do have them, pull them out, review them. Have people's names changed? Has somebody moved away? Does it make it difficult for that person to perform those duties? Those are documents that you can always change. You can always update them. So I usually advise my clients at least every 3 years, pull them out, look at them. And it may be prudent to do a new power of attorney, just because a lot of financial institutions become reluctant to honor that power of attorney by virtue of how old it is. And in Massachusetts, a power of attorney doesn't really end until you die. But I find a lot of banks, especially if it's more than 3 years old or 5 years old, they're going to give your family a hard time in using it. So let's try to avoid that and update it. If a client comes in to me to make a change to their will or a change to the trust, I always recommend that they update their power of attorney at the same time. I can't emphasize enough to you how important it is to have those documents in place, keep them current, and let your loved ones know where they are. Okay, so I'm going back to my booth. I'm happy to answer any particular questions that you folks may have, and I really do hope that you'll visit the other exhibitors, because as I said, there's a lot of great information over there. So have a nice day.
Thank you, Attorney Sullivan, for joining us again this year and for taking time out of your busy schedule to answer some questions for us. I thought I saw someone from Congressman Keating's office, but I lost her, so we'll see if she comes back. At this point in time, we have two healthcare experts who are here with us this morning to answer a question. What should people know when considering home care or hiring a home care worker or agency? So first, I would like to invite Lauren. Come on up, Lauren. Lauren Langevin. She is the co-owner with her husband Richard of Home Instead Senior Care. Lauren has been involved with helping seniors to live safely and comfortably in their own home for over 15 years. She's a member of the Home Care Association of America, is co-chair of the Southeastern Massachusetts Alzheimer's Partnership, and is a member of Dementia Friends Fall River and Dementia Friends Massachusetts. She was a featured speaker at last year's Home Care Association of America Conference in Washington, D.C., and locally she gives seminars on a variety of senior care issues, including dementia and caregiver stress. Thank you, Lauren, for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Paula. Good to see you. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a great time. As Jane said afterwards, definitely go meet all of the vendors. There's so much wonderful information, great resources available. Again, I'm Lauren Langevin. I'm a co-owner with my husband of Home Instead Senior Care. We're based in Dartmouth, but we service seniors throughout the entire South Coast. And I'm just going to talk to you really quickly about some of the key things you really should think about when you're choosing home care. Right now, according to AARP and the Home Care Association of America, 9 out of 10 seniors over the age of 65 want to stay at home as they age. And I'm sure most of you would agree with that. That's where you'd like to live safely, comfortably, independently. And home care providers such as Home Instead make that possible. But what's the caveat to that is you have to really be careful about who you're bringing into your home. You're asking strangers to come into your home and provide care for you so you can have the comfort that you need, the support you need, and your family can have the peace of mind. So some of the things that we really stress, and this came out of out of my personal experience and being involved with home care providers before I got involved with senior care as a profession. I was taking care of my parents at home and did not know the questions to ask. So when we go out and we talk to people or they call us and they say, what should we do? What kind of questions should we ask? Here's a composite of things that we put together. First of all, really find out how the caregivers are trained, if they're experienced. We're finding people will say, and this happened to us, oh, they have a lot of experience, but they've never really been trained. Maybe they took care of their grandmother or their parents or an aunt and uncle, but nobody ever taught them how do you really do personal care, the proper ways for bathing and toileting. How do you really provide companionship? Companionship is not just sitting around and watching TV. It's really enriching the lives of seniors to make sure they stay emotionally engaged in their lives. So the training is really important. We also offer for our company Alzheimer's training, dementia training, hospice training, really anything that our caregivers need to provide the best support to our clients without just kind of taking the word like, well, I've done it before, trust me. Another thing, how well are these people vetted? A query checks performed, driving background checks, making sure they have clean driving records. Is there anything else in their background that would prohibit them from providing, again, the best care and giving your family the best peace of mind? Another thing that is very important and near and dear to mine and my husband's heart, because we did not have that, is client care management. We had caregivers that just showed up at the door and said, hi, XYZ agency sent me. I had to do all the training, all the support, and all the management of the caregivers. So one thing that's really important and something that Home Instead is very strong on is providing that client care support, and that's twofold. One is making sure on a consistent basis that our clients all get the services that they signed up for, that they want, they need, and they deserve. And it's also making sure that our caregivers, who are also already well vetted, they're wonderful people, but we're still making sure that everything that needs to get done for that client is being done, and they know that they have the support at Home Instead with 24-hour live support. So if there's any questions, any issues, any problems, any help they need with a client, they can call and get some help from 24 hours a day, which is so important. Again, what a lot of people don't realize is taking care of a loved one is very, very hard. And everybody wants to do it. They feel responsible. Like he was my great husband, he was my wife, I owe it to her, my mother, my father. And that's true. We all want to do everything we can for our parents. But as family caregivers, a study by Stanford University said that 30% of us as family caregivers die before the person we're taking care of. And that number goes up to 40% if that person has Alzheimer's. What does that mean? As family caregivers, we need to take care of ourselves and give ourselves the permission to say, I'm going to find wonderful, supportive home care for my parent or loved one so I can go take Saturdays off and spend it with my family, or go spend a day with my husband, or go visit my kids or my grandkids, and get recharged. Very similar to what they say in airplanes. You know, before you help anybody with their oxygen mask, if there's a problem, put your own oxygen mask on yourself. If you're not able to help yourself, you're not able to help anyone else. And that is another thing that home care provides that people don't think about, but is incredible respite care, which is really a twofold benefit, because the senior is getting incredibly wonderful care and is very well cared for, and the family member, the family caregiver, is getting that respite care that is so important to recharge their batteries. So again, I just wanted to hit on a very high-level thing about some of the things to think about, but the really key things are, how well are the people vetted? You're putting the strangers in your home. How well are they trained? Is it just that because they said that they've done it before, or does the company really offer a complete training program and make sure that everybody is well trained to provide the best possible care? And the other thing is, how well are people managed to make sure that everybody's where they should be when they said they should be, they understand what the whole care plan is, and then there's somebody available to make sure that all that support is provided to caregivers and their clients 24 hours a day. We also have a table in the back, so after the session, please stop by if you have any questions or want any more information. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lauren. And I do see Glenda Izagata here from Congressman Keating's office. Thank you for joining us. Congressman is a strong advocate for seniors as well, so we appreciate you being here. So our final speaker this morning, another healthcare expert. His name is Kevin Smith, and Kevin is the CEO of Best of Care. It is a non-medical home care agency that serves Greater Boston, the South Shore, the South Coast, and the Cape and Islands communities. Let's see. Best of Care services include personal care, homemakers and companions, hospice care, care management, and other specialty services. Under his direction, Best of Care has acquired 2 private pay agencies, expanded to Cape Cod and the islands, and obtained contracts with 8 of the state's 26 referral partners. Kevin is also the president of the board of directors for the Massachusetts Council for Home Care Aides. Please join me in welcoming Kevin, and thank you for hanging in there with us.
Hey everybody, I'm the closer, so I'm going to try to keep it light because I know everybody's probably itching to go. You've heard a lot of different voices today. You've spoken to a lot of the great vendors and met with a lot of the exhibitors today. But what I want to do is just start with a question. Now that you've gone and spoken to everybody and listened to Lauren, do you know what home care is? Raise your hand if you're saying yes. Okay. It's pretty good because most people don't know what home care is until they need it. So it's refreshing to see a group of people who are acknowledging that they know what it is without perhaps needing it today, tomorrow, this week, or in the near future. So one of the things that people are sometimes confused about, who is a home care worker? Is it a PCA? Is it a CNA? Is it a home health aide? Well, depending on which company you work for, depending on what state you're in, it could be any and all of those things. A home care worker is ideally a trained individual who goes into the homes of clients who are either aging or perhaps an individual with a disability to provide them with skilled care to help them keep them safe, healthy, and as independent as they possibly can be within their homes. My agency and a number of the other agencies here who are exhibiting today do just that. So when you need home care, or let me put it this way, as an agency owner, when we find out that people need home care, we usually hear from adult children who are calling on behalf of their parent, who are saying, look, they've never had it, but I live in Connecticut, my mother lives in Quincy, I can't be there every day, I'm starting to get concerned about X, Y, or Z. So what can you guys do for me? Well, the first thing that we ask is, have you talked to anybody yet? And sometimes people say, yeah, we looked on Craigslist, and we can find an aide for $15 an hour. What do you guys charge? And then they get sticker shock, because what an agency charges is always going to be more than what somebody on Craigslist or care.com charges. So let's get past that. Why? Why is somebody on Craigslist only going to charge you 15 bucks? Cash, too, by the way. They'll take cash. Nice and easy. They don't have workers' comp. So when they slip and fall on your steps because they haven't been salted or shoveled yet, you're on the hook, okay? When you hire an agency, we have workers' comp. We literally have to have it. So if an employee slips and falls or there's an incident in your home, it's not your issue. It belongs to the agency. Do you think that somebody from Craigslist is going to hand you their background check, a Corey check, and say, here's everything you need to know about me, make an informed decision? No, they're not. They're going to say, I'm a great caregiver, I've got tons of experience. When you work with an agency, everybody is vetted, everybody is background checked, all 50 states, if you come to work for our company. Corey checked, motor vehicle driving record check, work references, and we also require that people get a physical to make sure that they are literally physically capable to handle the responsibilities of the job. So, do you just call an agency to find these people? Yes, you can do that. You can jump on Google and just search for home care with whatever town or city you live in. Or you can reach out to Coastline or Bristol Elder Services. There are 26 state-funded organizations across this state who function essentially as vetting partners because they offer contracts to agencies like ours. And if we are good enough and we are compliant enough to get a contract with these state-funded organizations, that's a great first starting point to say, okay, let me reach out to one of these organizations because obviously they're compliant, obviously they are meeting the state mandates for a home care contract, and obviously they have employees who are qualified and trained to deliver the services that your family needs. So on top of that, they will also match you up, and I'm talking specifically about your local area resources, Bristol or Coastline, who are here in Bristol County, and give you choices. They'll tell you whether you're income eligible for the service. They'll tell you what types of service you're eligible for. Homemaker with grocery shopping and cleaning. They'll tell you that you might be able to get personal care to help with bathing, and that might just be supervision. Don't get the idea that it's all hands-on, somebody coming in to literally help manipulate you in and out of the shower. It might be prompting, it might be reminding, just to make sure that you're doing it safely and properly. Or they might recommend companionship, where somebody can come and help give you some socialization, or maybe, if your family is removed, just to have a familiar face coming into your home. So the ASAP network is a tremendous partner, and they are essentially a vetting guide for providers like us to get in touch with you. The other thing I want to mention, I keep using this fake Craigslist employee here as my example versus a home care agency employee, but when that person is out sick, who's going to help you? I don't know. I don't know who's going to help you. Probably nobody, because they don't have backup. When you work with an agency, if your worker is out sick, they let us know. It might be 2 a.m. and they call our answering service, and I'm not going to be at work in the morning. Our on-call immediately starts working to find a replacement worker for you if you want one. If you need more help than what your Craigslist individual employee can help you with, what are you going to do? Hope that they have a friend who can come in and help you? No. When you work with an agency, you have a constant communication with this partner to say, I think we need some more help. and we can immediately take action and try to find you some additional help or present you with the right resources to point you in the direction for more help. So I'll sort of leave it at that. If there's any individual questions that anybody wants to ask me about working with a home care agency, home care workers in general, industry questions, or local resources, I will literally stand here for a few more minutes if you'd like. Other than that, thank you for listening. I hope that you enjoyed the event today. Get home safe, have a great weekend, and thank you, Paula.
Thank you, Kevin. You did a great job closing for us. Appreciate it, and we appreciate the work that you do. So we've had a busy morning. Lots of information kind of all squeezed into a really short period of time. There is a lot more information in the other rooms, so please, by all means, take some time and make your way over there. But I will end by saying Coastline is very, very happy to be co-sponsoring this event with the District Attorney's Office. We are grateful to our sponsors, because without them, we would not have been able to do this. We appreciate all of our speakers. We appreciate all of the individuals in the next room who are sort of manning the booths. We look forward to another event next year, but most of all, this event would not be the success that it is without all of you. So I give you a round of applause, and I thank you very much for joining us this morning.